fighter jets dodging drones high above the Arizona desert. Arizona's family investigates close calls and a midair collision. In fact, our Investigates team found 22 incidents over an 8-month time frame through the FAA last year.
And 3 of those drone sightings stand out. That is because they happened in restricted airspace south of Interstate 8 between Ajo and Yuma. It's the Barry M. Goldwater Range, and that is where investigative reporter Morgan Lowe begins this story.
This is the Camino del Diablo, the Devil's Highway. 130 miles of dirt road that has taken travelers through scenic, rugged, and desolate desert since the 1500s. One reason it's still so isolated today is that it runs through the Barry M. Goldwater Range, where the most modern U.S. military jets pierce the clouds, practicing air-to-air combat and bombing targets on the ground. It's restricted airspace reserved only for military aircraft. But during a 3-month period early last year, something else was sharing the skies with those fighter pilots, something that was not supposed to be out here. That something, aerial drones. According to FAA incident data we reviewed, fighter pilots spotted drones in the range's airspace on December 13th of 2022, January 19th of 2023, and February 14th of 2023. In the January incident, a drone actually struck the rear canopy of an F-16.
It's a real problem.
Mike Canada is the chair of the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Program at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott. He says anytime a drone gets near a plane, it has potential for disaster.
I think it's akin to a bird strike. I mean, you hit it at the right place on the fuselage or in the cockpit area, yeah, you can bring down an aircraft.
Bringing it into land. This is our Matrice 600.
Students and faculty at Embry-Riddle work with the most advanced drones available to consumers.
This thing is basically a giant payload carrier.
But even these drones are unable to reach the altitudes that Air Force pilots reported seeing drones over the Goldwater Range. And one of those drones was big. The pilot reported seeing a 5 to 10 foot wingspan.
Aerospace companies build things that size, but that might have been a homemade kit or something doing something on their own.
We found no reports that authorities on the range made any arrests or even spotted the drone operators. Officials from Luke Air Force Base and the Goldwater Range say they are not authorized to talk about what happened out here. And we're still waiting for some other records from a different Air Force department. But a 2022 report from the Director of National Intelligence states that unidentified aerial phenomena events continue to occur in restricted or sensitive airspace, highlighting possible concerns for safety of flight or adversary collection activity.
Would that be a situation where a drone could be used for like espionage or surveillance?
Oh yeah.
Why would somebody be interested in using spy drones out here, far away from the Air Force Base? Because of the types of jets that practice in this airspace.
So we like to say we're the quarterback on the battlefield.
Lieutenant Colonel Tyler Smith flies the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II. We interviewed him for a different story when he described how advanced the F-35 is.
It's the leading edge of our combat capability in America. It'll always be at the forefront of any conflict we have for decades to come.
And F-35s routinely fly over the Goldwater Range. Sometimes you can hear the jets, but you can't see them.
Maybe somebody was just out there trying to get a good shot of an F-16 or doing something they weren't supposed to. On the other side of the coin, maybe it was a foreign entity or somebody trying to get some info.
Mike Canada, who operated spy drones over Afghanistan and Iraq in his previous career, says it wouldn't surprise him if someone was trying to gain intelligence on the F-35 or other aircraft.
One of the things that intelligence agencies do to kind of find out, modus operandi are just watching for 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, how many aircraft come in there, what they're doing, what missions are flying, what they're dropping out there, and you can gather a lot just from that.
This is fascinating. Folks were freaking out when we had those Chinese spy balloons blown off course, but this is a whole other ball of wax. So the incidents that you were looking into were like the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023. Have you seen anything since then?
Nothing on the Goldwater Range. Now, the incidents outside of that Goldwater Range, they did continue until about June of last year, but then they stopped, and we don't really have any explanation why there were no more reported drone sightings from these Air Force jets.
And as you reported, these were large drones spotted by the pilots, a wingspan of 5 or 10 feet, flying much higher than a normal drone would be. Is it possible that, you know, this is down near the border? Could they be operated by Customs and Border Protection or perhaps another agency?
Yeah, we reached out to Customs and Border Protection. They said they do not fly drones over the range. They did say that they occasionally see drones come up from Mexico, but it's hard to say whether those drones would be that big or that, you know, high tech enough to get that high and that far into the United States.
All right, so no documents, nothing official from Luke, but you are waiting for another agency, right? Hoping for some more information.
We could have an update in the middle of next month. We're hoping.
Okay, cross our fingers, and we know that you'll keep us posted.
Yeah.
Unbelievable story, Morgan. Thank you.
Now some new information on an Arizona's family investigation involving a mid-air collision between a fighter jet and an unmanned aerial drone.
It happened last year over the desert southwest of Phoenix. Every expert we talked with said this could have been catastrophic. And our chief investigator, Morgan Lowe, here with an update tonight. You now have the incident report from the Department of Defense.
Yeah, we filed a records request with the DoD back in February when we first reported about the number of fighter pilots who were spotting drones really high in the sky and in some cases in restricted airspace. But this incident in particular wasn't just a pilot spotting a drone. It was a collision, and this report reveals new details about this mid-air mishap.
It happened in the skies over the Barry M. Goldwater Range on January 19, 2023. And this incident report offers the most detailed account yet of what happened that day when an F-16 fighter jet collided with an aerial drone. It was a 4-ship formation of F-16s. The mishap aircraft was flying at 1,745 feet above ground level. The pilot saw a mostly white and orange object collide with the port side of the canopy and initially thought it was a bird. The pilot did a battle damage check, but saw no damage on the aircraft. The pilot then flew straight back to Tucson and landed. An inspection of the jet showed no damage. This was one of 3 drone incursions that occurred over a 3-month period over the Goldwater Range, which is restricted airspace and off limits to people on the ground. The investigation conclusions were redacted from the report, as well as the recommendations.
We still do not know who was flying the drones and any of those drones in those incidents. The DoD will not comment on that. And although these incursions were reported to the Pima and Maricopa County Sheriff's offices, there's no record of any investigation beginning because of that.
It's so bizarre. You reached out to some fighter pilots, didn't you?
Yeah, we talked to 3 current and former F-16 pilots about this. They said this is a serious situation, and that collision could have brought that jet down.
And as far as, you know, the mystery continues, we don't know who's flying these drones, but it's likely not one of us down there trying to get nice desert scenery shots or anything. You said in your prior reporting the drones they believe are coming up from Mexico, but that doesn't answer the question if they're from a cartel or from a foreign spy agency.
Yeah, and they're not sure these drones are coming up from Mexico because they're so high. One of the foreign pilots, one of the former pilots that I spoke to, said there's a lot of information a spy drone could gather about the advanced fighters that fly over the Goldwater Range, those F-35s. In addition to what those drones see, they could gather intelligence about the frequencies the jets use to communicate, as well as their radar and other surveillance jamming technologies. So we know that there are things happening on the Goldwater Range that adversarial countries want to know about. Whether these drones are evidence that that's happening, we just don't know.
Interesting report from the Pentagon, even though so much of it was
Blacked out.
redacted. We'd love to know
Completely.
what else is in there. Morgan, thanks for that update.